Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Chicago. John Anthony, host of Detroit's Morning Answer and Black and White Radio, joining you this morning with my good friend Mike Coolidge for the last, 3 hours of radio?
Yes. 3 hours. Flew by. Feels like we just started, John.
I mean, it just flew by. And had a good time. We've tackled a lot of different issues. Iran, what's happening in Michigan legislators, going to the White House. We've talked about why Republicans should reconsider looking into Juneteenth.
Yes. We also asked an intriguing question, which we might ask again to the callers, which would have been worse, Hillary Clinton winning in 2016 or Kamala Harris winning in 2024? Which would have been worse? You have to choose one. Which would have been worse?
That's kind of hard for me to do. I just simply can't. Because as I was embarking on my answer, I had to stop and think, wait, but what about what happens with Kamala winning? And then Hillary, it's a hard place to be, man, to answer that question. And we'll pose that question in the open mic Friday and see how many people let us know which one they prefer.
Which would have been worse?
Yeah, our next guest is I'm telling you, there are police chiefs and then there are police chiefs. And Thomas Weitzel, he served with the Riverside PD from 1984. He was promoted to chief in 2008 and he retired. Such a smart man. In 2021, he had over 37 years in law enforcement. And, I don't know if you guys remember, but Chief Weitzel was shot in the chest doing a routine. I hate that word, routine, because nothing about a traffic stop is routine. Every time I hear a news reporter say routine traffic stop, there's nothing routine about a traffic stop. Every single one of them is different. But in 1987, and his bulletproof vest saved his life. And that event, I know it changed him as a person. I know friends who've been shot, friends who have lost their lives in the line of duty. And so I wanted to bring him on. Chief Weitzel, welcome back to Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good morning, John and Mike. I'm glad to be on with you.
I mean, there's so many different avenues we can take this conversation with you because your Twitter feed has just been on fire lately as it relates to everything that's happening in the city of Chicago. But, you recently said that statements from the mayor, Brandon Johnson, that they could incite violence against ICE agents and police. Can you share what type of experience or data led you to that strong language?
Yeah, the ICE itself just released information that assaults on their officers or their agents is up over 400%. And I'm still, all my adult children are police officers, and I know individuals that are in either federal task forces or work for the FBI or other federal organizations, and they're being targeted. And they're being doxxed, and they're having their public information, private information, put out publicly, such as their face, such as their home addresses, that's out there, and it's being purposely put out by activists. But the shocking thing is it's now being purposely put out by politicians, by our elected officials. They're actually doxing federal agents, which I find I've never seen that in my 37 years in law enforcement before I retired. I've never seen a public official do that. They've disagreed with police, and they've had our arguments, but to do that is a different level.
Yeah. I remember when I was a legislator, I actually filed a bill that the ACLU put an end to. It was basically to do for police officers, teachers, and I forget which the other crowd that I introduced it to. Just as judges, you can't find a judge's home address online or anything like that. And I wanted to afford that same opportunity to police officers. Well, Representative Nicole Laha, she's basically taken that bill and introduced it and added a lot more people because of what just recently happened in Minnesota. Chief, you've had to commandeer you've led many men as a police chief. How important is a bill like that protects the identity? There's no trace of police officers pertinent information online, or you can't find it anywhere. How, the same as judges, how important is a piece of legislation like that for the men and women who serve and protect our streets?
Yeah, it's essential, especially for federal agents and officers that are in task forces, because they're dealing with violent crime every day. They have this thing where they wanted us as local police to live in our communities we police, right? And Illinois was a real good example. A lot of communities, you're required to live in the community you police, or like within 5 miles of the city hall or the village hall. So they would know you'd have a connection to the community, and now they want to turn around and they want to in a negative way, put the officers' information out there so that people can confront you. People can confront you at restaurants. They can confront you on the street. They can march in front of your home because they don't like what you did or what the perception is you stand for. And these are the officers protecting and serving the community that you hired them for, and now the elected officials are going to put you out there in a negative manner. I think it's extremely dangerous.
Chief, Mike Coolidge here. I've got a question for you about swatting. Swatting is when someone, for listeners that don't know, calls the police and fakes that something is happening at a target's house. Like, let's say they don't like Mike Coolidge, and they say, hey, Mike Coolidge is beating his wife right now, and we heard it from next door, and he is doing something crazy. You guys need to go there and take care of it right now. Or worse. And either a SWAT team comes in or the police come, and with guns ablaze sometimes if it's something very dangerous, and it turns out to be fake and phony. It just is a way to harass people, whatever. Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, said on Joe Rogan podcast not too long ago that he was swatted. My question is there anything at a police station or at a high level that can be done without legislation, just some kind of policy where it's like, wait, like, can this be checked ahead of time? Is there a way to confirm with certain people who might be swatted or who were swatted previously that this isn't a legit thing? I just find that so hard to comprehend, that swatting is still a thing. It still exists, and it's still tried to harass otherwise, law-abiding people who just happen to have the wrong politics, according to the people calling the SWAT.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it is still happening for sure. And the police agencies have pulled back their response somewhat. Initially, years ago, when the swatting was hitting a high, they would send everybody right away, because the police, honestly, you didn't want to be criticized for not reacting right away. Right? You wanted to overreact to then underreact, because the police rarely get criticized for overreacting. It's underreacting. But what happened is, we had one when I was in Riverside where they did it to the high school. And we sent multiple police agencies, not just Riverside, our neighboring agencies. It looked like we had a war zone we had taken over, and it was completely false. Then we pulled back and said, we're not going to do this anymore. When these calls come in, we'll send an officer to assess it, and then we'll start making phone calls to the high school immediately or a private residence. So we kind of pulled it back, because we were doing more harm than we were what we wanted to accomplish. People would see all these police cars responding, lights and siren, big deal, and that's what the caller wanted, a huge inconvenience, evacuate the high school or evacuate the house. We had an elected official also have that done, a county elected official. And so I know we did, and I think most agencies have kind of tempered that now. It's not that they don't go, but they don't go with everybody.
Well, I'll tell you, House Bill 3988 was actually my House bill. I was the first person in Illinois to put a financial responsibility to the person who gets caught doing the swatting back in 2015, because I actually responded when I was a sheriff's deputy. I responded to a call. The kids were upset that he got beat in the video game, called and said that this kid was shooting up the house. He killed his mom, he killed his dad, and he was telling him he's going to come kill him. So, we're going, it. We're doing, I'm on one side of the county of Kendall County, having to get to the other side of the county. And I'm doing about 85, 90 miles an hour to get there when it was safe to do so. And we get there, we all got our long guns out, and as soon as we see there's a light on, so immediately we're like, wait a minute, something's not right here. So we all have our long guns out. Some, people are posting up tactically, and two of us approached the door, ring the doorbell. It became my call. And come to find out, it was a prank call. So now I wanted it more. I wanted the bill to say whatever the costs associated for the police responding to that house, how many officers that were there, any other resources that were used, that person would have to pay that back, because I just felt like the more the penalty was, the less people would do it. And so there was a lot of fanfare about it. So you're right, Chief. It's such an important tool that, and I think law enforcement needs way more tools. They don't need the Safety Act. And Chief, you've talked, ad nauseum about this Safety Act. Is there anybody out there going to challenge this law, Chief?
Yeah, I used to wish we could get rid of the law, and I've come to the realization that's not happening. So I've taken up this position that it needs to be amended. There needs to be some common sense in there, and I think we're getting more and more, at least people that will sign on to. There needs to be some changes. I mean, one of the huge things that I put in is I just can't get my head around that police officers can be severely battered and injured for aggravated battery of a police officer, and you can walk out the door on a notice to appear. I mean, that is not a mandatory jailable offense at first appearance court. And this keeps happening over and over again. And there needs to be some changes or updates to that statute. I'm hoping that will somebody will have the appetite, especially on the Democratic side, because let's face it, in Illinois, if the Democrats don't support changes in that Safety Act, currently it's not going to happen.
Chief, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, as you know, they're trying to pass an ordinance, a curfew ordinance. I do know that he said it passed. He did say he's going to veto it. I want you to hear his explanation of it. Personally, I got to say on the onset, I don't think this ordinance should pass. Also, I think they should allow the police to do their jobs to maintain the order, to bring order to chaos. But that's just me. That's neither here nor there.
Every freaking day, I'm raising children in this city. I know what it's like to feel unsafe and to be targeted. We have to stop as a city falling to some of the most ridiculous remedial forms of governance. It has not worked. And now we're doing stuff that works, and then they want to come up with another idea that has not worked. What sense does that make? I'm saying ask deeper, more profound questions about why young people are gathering in spaces in the first place. That's why I was up to freaking midnight on Saturday night, out, hanging out with some of the young people at the late night basketball, showing up for these young brothers. They all could be my son. They can all be my nephews.
Chief, listen, I'm not going to say that going to basketball games is going to solve the epidemic of crime in Chicago. But what's your take on this curfew ordinance that's being passed?
Well, I would tell the mayor it's the frickin' police that are responding and handling this, too. That's the first thing I'd tell him.
The frickin' police.
I would say is that I wasn't for it. I found it very strange or maybe enlightening that the superintendent said he never asked for the legislation. He doesn't like the legislation. He publicly stated that. And my initial problem with that was it's after the fact, right? So when they would enact the temporary curfew, they've already gathered, they're already downtown, they're already causing chaos. My answer was what you said earlier. Let the police do their job. Did you notice they never mentioned making arrests?
No.
Taking the juveniles into custody? That's what needs to be done. And maybe that needs to be done on a mass. They need to take hundreds, because there's hundreds of these kids down there. And then maybe things would slow down. Writing letters to the school districts and the parents isn't doing it either. No.
Well, Chief Weitzel, we got to leave it right there. I want to thank you for coming on Chicago's Morning Answer with Mike and I. I always love your commentary. I've watched your X account. Where can people follow you on X?
It's at Chief Weitzel, at ChiefWeitzel. All
right. He's former Riverside Police Chief Thomas Weitzel. Thanks so much for joining us. And he joined us on our Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go. And that place is ZipRecruiter.